Hello everyone, welcome into our latest live video. It's Friday the 9th of January 2026. I'm Kerry Holzman, and today we're going to talk a little bit about, well, primarily this brand new Minisforum offering that really wasn't even mentioned at the Consumer Electronics Show, which, by the way, today is the last day of that, I believe. And so all the big announcements were made pretty much in the first 2 days. Minisforum announced their latest generation of the AI X1 Pro, which features the AI Ryzen 470, the next generation, which is just a polished version of the previous. They also introduced the MS02, which we were here lucky enough to be able to get that early. We got the bare bones version, put our own RAM in, learned about it, and it sits right over here as my new go-to for on-camera instances where I need a nice, clean, fast machine. I like that better than the MS01 strictly because the power supply is built in, so it's one less thing for me to finagle with on the desk. And the MS01 is still for sale, by the way. I think it's a little over $400 on Minisforum's site, barebone. There's the G1 Pro from Adamant, which is their gaming PC with, I think, a 5060 mobile chip built into it, and it hasn't been officially released in the United States yet, to the best of my knowledge, but hopefully we'll have one of those soon. So we've got some irons in the fire with our friends over at Minisforum, and it seems like they had a great showing there at CES. And other companies like Synology, were they there? I don't know. Pretty much it was what I predicted it would be, just televisions, AI, and robotics primarily. I don't know, did you guys see any videos or go to CES and see anything that caught your eye? Because for me, Intel announced their new 300 series laptop chip, the Panther Lake chip, which thankfully they released immediately after announcing it, so there's no delay. AMD had nothing. AMD just sank themselves. They're going to follow NVIDIA's shoes this year with all-in AI, and we'll see what rabbits they pull out of their hat later this year, but we don't expect anything new with Wi-Fi routers or with, aside from that Intel new mobile chip, which is supposed to be very impressive. We'll get our hands on one and we'll review it in something. I imagine Minisforum's probably got something working. I don't know. They have so much going on at any given time. Our friends at Nemo may even have something going on there as well. I'm not sure, but what I will say, as soon as we get these items, we'll certainly review them and give you our thoughts, and there really hasn't been much else. We'll see some new CPUs, like the desktop CPUs, probably around Thanksgiving. So that'll probably lead to new motherboards. Again, no new Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi 8 really isn't anything other than Wi-Fi 7, even if that comes out. This is going to be a pretty interesting year, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad year. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to examine some things that perhaps you've been overlooking, and a great way to discover the capabilities fully of what you have now. There is, for example, a fascination with RAM. I don't know what it is, but on the internet, and this is really an internet thing, people are obsessed with how hot their computers run, which I find to be very strange. They don't seem to be worried about how hot anything runs, except a computer, which I can't understand the logic of, you know, what people have such an anxiety over, unless they're having a problem at just making up stuff. And then that kind of gets infected into other people's mentality, and then they have the problem too, but it's all placebo problems for the most part. They don't exist. But the other thing is RAM. People seem to think they can't get enough RAM, and most people aren't using more than 32. In fact, I would argue most people are barely using 16 gigs of RAM. So the idea that you would have anything over 16 gigs of RAM for probably 85% of the computer owners is too much RAM. You're not using it. It's just a waste of money. Now, you can go and see how much RAM you're using, and you can verify what I'm telling you, but we've done the live polls here in the chat room, and very few of you have ever exceeded 32 gigs, and most of you don't even come close to, you know, somewhere you're around 16 to 22 as most users. But I think there's an overemphasis on having more RAM than you need. And so, well, we'll follow through with this throughout the year. There's a few videos I'll make about it to prove it, that you're just wasting your money. And so let the RAM price whatever, you know, it wants to be. It'll come back down next year at some point, but probably what you've got, even if you could get more, would make no difference on your computer. So it's a very significant marketing manipulation to convince so many people around the world how important having more RAM is, when the reality is it's the opposite. It's not true. Once you reach a certain amount of RAM, anything above and beyond that is a complete and utter total waste of money. So don't be fretting about the price of RAM. I mean, seriously, it's doing you a favor, most of you. And Mara says we have email, kicking off the show with a couple messages here, and then we'll get into talking about today's build, because it does have to do with RAM and storage, and what manufacturers are doing to convince people to buy a computer when prices are going up. And the first one that we get who's got a solution for this, of course, our friends at Minisforum, who are always innovating, and more about that later. Let me check email first here and see what we've got. Oh, look at this. Our friend Buster sends an Amazon gift card. He says, thanks for tonight's show. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. I've been up since 2 in the morning. We've had a dusting of snow. Your friend Buster. Thank you, Buster. That's very kind of you. Our friend Charlie Purdy with an Amazon gift card. He said, I'm running late. I have a dentist appointment. Hey, that's a good excuse. Here's your hall pass. Thank you for the Amazon gift card, Charlie. Our friend Mark Gaines also with an Amazon gift card. He says, hope you enjoy my gift card in lieu of my super chat. No, we appreciate that very much, Mark. You know, super chats make us wait. YouTube makes us wait over 30 days and up to 60 days before they will pass the contribution on to us, and they take 1/3 of it. So, well, 30%, a little less than a third. With Amazon gift cards, we get it immediately, and there's no cut that Amazon takes. And we're probably spending it all at Amazon anyway. So thank you guys so much, and thank you to all our members. A shout out to our friends over at VIP-URCDKEys. They're the ones that I get my Windows licenses from. Now, you need to know there's been a licensing change from Microsoft. And well, I put the slideshow on, here it is, for VIP-URCDKEys. I will emphasize to you again how important it is that you get real, genuine, authentic product keys that have support from the seller. These aren't the $3 keys you go buy online. Those are sort of, there's companies out there looking to make a quick buck, and they're not making enough money to make it worth talking to you. You make the sale, they're done with you. That's generally the rule of it. And if you didn't get what you thought you were getting, too bad. There's no financial incentive for them to make you happy, because what was it, $3, right? So you may not get a genuine product. If you have any problems, you're likely not going to get any help. And it may be that you cannot activate the product. So why is that? Well, that's because Microsoft has turned off phone activation for Windows and Office, going all the way back to Windows 7. So if you need to activate Windows, or you need to activate Microsoft Office, as of January 1st, 2026, to the best of my knowledge, if you call the number to activate by phone, it will tell you the service has been disconnected, that you must now only activate online, and that's it, and the phone call hangs up on you. There's no one to talk to. It's an automated message. And if you got one of those sketchy product keys that requires you to call into Microsoft, and I'm telling you, those have always been sketchy, you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to activate online. Now, activating online doesn't necessarily mean you need a Microsoft account, but it does mean you need an online, you need the computer to be online with internet access. So just be prepared that if you have a problem with a key you bought from another seller, even if you just bought it and it's requiring you to activate over the phone and you realize you can't do that, it's not you. You just got scammed by whoever that seller was. So if you have any problems with the folks over at VIP-URCDKEY in doing your online activation, They have support for up to 6 months after the sale, and they will get it fixed and get you up and running. They stand behind their products. And, if you decide to go another way, just, set your expectations accordingly, that you're a bit more of a gambler than I am. And I don't gamble with my customers. My customers trust me, and I don't want to violate that trust or betray them by trying to make a few extra dollars. And by the way, VIP-URCDKEY, they aren't the cheapest place to buy a key. They are the cheapest place to buy a genuine and authentic key with support. In fact, if you know of any place cheaper, you let me know, because they're still about 90% cheaper than what Microsoft wants to charge you. All right, but I don't want you to be disillusioned with these $2 product keys or $3 product keys. They're oftentimes scams, and it may not occur to you until after the sale, and there may be no refund. Not that you risked much, but you wasted time, and you might feel like a fool. So Uncle Kerry here is just warning you. If you don't want to go through the harassment and the trouble, just get a genuine product key. Use my name, Kerry, at checkout to get an additional 25% off. This is not a commission-based link, okay? So if you buy Windows or you buy Office, I'm just trying to help you. So if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. I don't profit or lose money whether you do or you don't. I want to make that very clear. I'm trying to help. You can lead a horse to water. That's all I can do. So those are the product keys I buy for my clients, and that's the price I pay when using the coupon discount of Kerry. I pay the same price. I buy it from the same source. Now you find me another professional computer reseller that will tell you where they're sourcing their product keys and their parts, and I'll show you a unicorn. All right, so I wanted to make sure we're clear on that. All right, let's talk about this Minisforum. Today, this is the Minisforum. Let me get the name right. M1 Plus. Now, we looked at an M1 before. I think it was an M1 Pro or just M1. And it was a very modern, latest and greatest CPU. So what ends up happening is if the price of RAM and the price of storage goes up, as it has been and will likely continue throughout the rest of this year. Like, I'm just saying, if you think it's expensive now to buy RAM and storage, wait till June, and you'll wish you had today's prices. You will wish you had bought now. Otherwise, don't plan on buying anything until next year. Sometime next year, it's predicted these prices will come back down. There's a supply and demand issue. There's not enough supply. There's too much demand. It will eventually level off once all the demand has been met, and then the opposite will happen. It'll swing the other way. There'll be more supply. When there's more supply, the prices will go down. So if you're thinking about upgrading this year, the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you. And I mean substantially cost you, by 2 to 3 to 4 times more than what they're wanting right now. If all the predictions are true, you may not be able to buy it at all. It may just be completely sold out with no options to purchase. Now that remains to be seen. But again, if you've already got 16 gigs of RAM, you really don't need any more. If you've been running this whole time with 16 gigs of RAM, I don't know what you think getting 32 or 64 or more is going to do for you other than drain your wallet, and you're being manipulated by marketing companies and online advertising. And I would strongly urge you to have the discipline to reduce to resist the mind control of hypnotizing and trancing you into believing you need to spend your hard-earned money on something you don't even need, let alone think you need it so bad you're willing to pay 3 to 4 times more for the same thing you never needed to begin with. All right, I can't make that any clearer. Now, it's your money. You do what you want with it. I'm not your dad. But I think it's insane. The behavior I'm seeing online blows my mind. So with that, what Minisforum has done is they said, okay, this may be a good time to go back a couple generations. If we can't have any control over the price and the RAM and the storage, what other ways can we reduce the price of the PC? Now, these aren't official words from Minisforum, but this is what I think the logic is. There's not a really big difference in modern day processors from one generation to the next until you skip ahead about 5 generations. Then suddenly you can see it, most people can see a difference. But from one generation to the next, it's 7 to, let's say, a 10% increase in performance on average. Whether it's Intel or AMD, a laptop mobile chip or a desktop chip, it's not a huge benefit, especially compared to the cost, to replace a CPU every year because the latest one came out. Unless you just have some unusual high demand needs and some unusual amount of money that does not represent the vast majority of us out here living in the world here, just doing our best with what we've got. With everything going up, in groceries and everything else, inflation, people losing work constantly, companies announcing layoffs, it's more important than ever that we make wise decisions with the money we have so that we're not suffering, but we're also not living in the lap of luxury when we can't afford it. And I think the logic from Minisforum is, what if we just offered a brand new computer that's using technology from a couple of years ago? Because the DDR4 RAM is cheaper than DDR5 by about half. And M.2 is an M.2, right? So what are you going to do about that? And in order to make this a budget in a time when you have no control over how much the RAM and the storage is going to cost, that's taking budget computers and making them more mid-range priced. And what we end up with is a machine that features a 12th generation Intel Core i5. It's specifically a 12600H CPU. This comes with 32 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage. Now, if you look up the cost of 32 gigs of RAM on 1 terabyte of storage, you're over half the price of this whole computer, and it's included. So what I'm about to show you is a higher price than what you're accustomed to paying. And this price is a bargain if you look at what other PCs are going for right now. And if you wait 3 months, I can already anticipate seeing the messages coming in going, man, I wish I had those prices from January. Well, yeah, join the club, but that's not going to make it happen. If you either, you're going to have to make a decision, which is, I'm going to pay a little bit more now, or I'm going to pay a lot more later, or I'm going to wait about a year, year and a half, and just kind of focus in on other things. I can upgrade like my monitor, my keyboard, my mouse, my speakers. There's plenty of things that you can upgrade your system that will make a difference. RAM for most people won't make much difference, but speakers can make a huge difference. Your monitor, your keyboard, the comfort of your chair and your desk. This may be a good time to focus on the rest of your PC setup, because those prices are continuing in the same price range and variation and even reduced pricing as they've been on the same trajectory, has not changed from years before. So instead of focusing on what the media wants you to focus on, turn your head the other way, move away from the torch carrying mob, and go to where there's nobody around and there's plenty of inventory at great prices on other items that will make your PC experience better. It's not just about storage and RAM. All right. So let me pull up the website on this so we can get a little bit more detail. So I'm going to click over on one of the links we have in our video notes below today's video. And let me share the screen with you here. There he, oh, that's Reagan. Reagan down here works for Minisforum. He's the one who does all their videos. Hi, Reagan. Okay, he's not live. He can't hear me. So this is what we're looking at today, the Minisforum M1 Plus. Now, this has kind of been released under the radar. It was initially released in China and a couple months ago, I think. Oh, this is DDR5. I've made a mistake. This is DDR5. For some reason, I thought it was DDR4. Using an older, slightly older generation chip. Again, it'd be hard to tell a 13600, 14600, or 12600 without benchmarks. They're very, very similar. Each generation after this is only mildly, single digits, percentage-wise faster. So the price, not so much. So when you get down to this level here, about the 12th gen, I'm not sure I'd go any earlier than 12th gen. This would be sort of the limit for me personally. and it can save you quite a bit of money compared to the latest and greatest that everybody pays top dollar for. There are 2 DDR5 slots. It has one Gen 4 x 4 NVMe slot. It does have Wi-Fi 6E. So we're not talking about Wi-Fi 5. We're not going that far back. It's got a couple of USB Type A slots there's 2 that are USB 2. And then I think these are in the back. Let me scroll down. You can see they offer this with twice the RAM, or you can do it yourself. Let's keep scrolling. So I can see the 2 USB ports in the front. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the back. So yeah, the 2 USB 2s are in the back. And we have a USB Type-C, an HDMI DisplayPort, and dual 2.5 gig Ethernet connections. And let me just, okay, so the CPU is 12 cores, 16 threads, and it can run up to 4.5 gigahertz. That little Type-C back there, believe it or not, is a full function USB 4 port. I want you to think about that, because I don't recall ever seeing a USB 4 port on a 12th gen CPU before. That does supply power delivery. So you can, if you had a portable monitor, you could run a USB-C cable out of this computer and into your portable monitor, and it will power that monitor, and it will display the signal, the video, through that one single cable. So it's pretty handy if you want to be portable or just reduce the cable clutter. And then as we scroll down, you'll see it supports up to 3 monitors. That means 1 HDMI, 1 display port, and that USB 4 port can be used as a display port out, and they can all be used simultaneously. A little bit about the CPU, 65 watt TDP. For those of you not into the whole AI thing, you're going to save money because this does not have an NPU on it. And if you're somebody who claims you don't need it, why not? I mean, why pay for it? So this can save you some money by not buying the whole, paying the AI tax, if you want to call it that, for the technology that includes NPUs, or neural processing units, the newer, latest processors. Let's see, you could use this as a router if you wanted to. You could use it, you could do link aggregation on here. And what else do they say about it? 40 gig per second, that's a full speed USB 4. You just get one of those back there. So you got a total of 5 USB ports. If you include the 2 in the back, the 2 in the front, and the USB 4, that's a total of 5. HDMI and display port. And they talk a little bit about their cooling Minisforums, very well known for their innovative cooling solutions that are very effective. And for the most part, they had a couple models that are really high-end that can be a little bit loud. But these machines, when you're not dealing with a high-end machine, you don't have the challenge of the aggressive cooling, and so they tend to be a lot quieter, usually near silent. It has a built-in microphone up front, not to be confused with the BIOS reset that you could use to put like unbend a paper clip or something if you needed to reset your BIOS, which, by the way, really shouldn't be a thing unless you've been going in there and you caused a problem. So don't go in there, and you probably will never need to use this. All right, then we got our barrel jack for the 19-volt input. Obviously, that's an external power brick. And everything else that we've already described is all explained here. We'll scroll down a little further. It says in the box we're going to have the power cord, the AC adapter, the mini PC, a VESA mounting bracket if you wanted to attach this to the back of a monitor, with the mounting screws required for that to work, and a short HDMI cable. The reason that cable is short is if you were to put this behind your monitor, you would only need a cable like a foot long. If you had a 5-foot or 6-foot cable, where does all that excess go? It's a mess. If you're not planning to put the computer behind the monitor, then this cable's probably too short to be usable. So don't be upset by it, understand why it's there. And of course, you've got a user manual. And we get into the specifications of the unit about the processor. It has the built-in Intel Iris graphics. It has The DDR5, which currently you can get a maximum of 96 gigs if you want to take out a second mortgage on your house. Storage is an M.2 Gen 4, and this one has a 1 terabyte. And we'll see what make and model we've got and what performance it runs at. A little bit more about the video and audio outputs, the I/O on it, which supports the power adapter 65 to 100 watts with power delivery out up to 15 watts. And of course the wall mount, that's the VESA mount. You can mount it on a wall. Typically it's mounted behind the monitor, but anywhere you want to mount it, under a desk beside, hanging off the side of the desk, that's up to you, or don't use it at all. The operating system included is Windows 11 Pro. Now this is a recently released product. If we jump over here to Amazon, well, before I do, what's the price over here? They're showing $439, and there is a coupon code. I think it's my name. I think it's Carrie, and it's like 30 bucks off or something, $25 off. And we've got all those notes for the coupon code if you order direct from Minisforum in our video description below today's video. All right, let's jump over at Amazon. If you prefer to buy it from Amazon, it looks like it's the same price. Please note they have a bunch of other mini PCs listed on the Amazon page that are all different makes and models, shapes and sizes and colors. Actually, these all appear to be about silver. Some, I think, are AMD and some are Intel. And so what we're looking at here specifically is the unit we're going to unbox today, the M1 Plus 12600. And it is this exact configuration. No, wait a minute. We have the 32 gig model. This, I think, is 16 gig. So we have the 32 gig model with 1 terabyte. And this model that is on Amazon is 16 gig and 512. And the model on Minisforum for that same price matches. So what we're looking at today is this model here selling for $519. All right. Don't mind me while I confuse myself. One of the things you need to be aware of, anytime a manufacturer or a seller puts multiple items on one page, like Minisforum has done here, this was just released. There's no way there's 159 reviews. These are the combined reviews of every one of these products. So if you scroll down, underneath the review, it's going to tell you which product it's for. So if you're looking at any Amazon products and you see this, you've got to pay attention to what they're talking about on the review, which is stated right here. And you likely see, I've got a review here, and it doesn't say which model it's for. It just says verified purchase. It's not for this computer. I haven't even unboxed this computer. Which is this for? I am confused. It's one I've purchased. Let me see my pictures. I can't tell. I'm going to have to go back and figure out what I was reviewing here, because this looks very similar to the unit we've got in front of us, but I wonder if this is the other version of the M1. That's really interesting. It said I reviewed this last year, almost exactly 1 year ago. Okay, well, clearly it's not this unit because this just came out. I'm a little confused. I have found on Amazon that when I notice this on my reviews and that it doesn't say what model it's for, I will edit my review and write in, this is for the make and model specifically, because a lot of people don't notice that. And I do that to help people when they're reading the reviews, to make them aware that, this is a page that has multiple products on it. And the reviews you're reading, if you're not paying attention, may be reviews for a product different than what you've clicked on. I wish Amazon didn't do that, but it is what it is, and just be aware of it. And you'll know right away if you see a number of different products for anything for sale on Amazon, all sharing the same page, all the reviews are combined. It's not just a Minisforum thing, it's an Amazon thing. All right, let me get back over to the chat room, and before we unbox, let me say hello to everybody joining us, as well as see if you guys have any questions for me before I get started here. Jonathan Felt says hello. There's William Bird joining us, saying hello. Hello to Luke Greenia and Sean Skinner, David Graham, John Williams, 3D Everything, Mark Gaines, Scott saying hello. Andy joins us and says hello. Eddie Casanova, as well as Dick Poverman. Gary Tatum says hello. Doman 2000 and Corey Mann saying hello. There's Channel Zero. Thomas Mac T. Matt joins us and says hello. Ben Laird says hello from Scotland. Dazzle555 joins us and says hello. Colazo says hello. There's Neil Garrett in the chat. Bikeman saying hello. Tech Smart Computers joins us in the chat. And who else? Of course, our channel administrator, Marlena in the chat room. Mark Ofsky says hello. Mark Baggett says hello. The Mopar Nerd says hello. John Lewis says hello from Brazil. W.E. Holmes is saying hello. Jim Kenny says hello. Cormac Plenty joins us as well. So I hope I got everybody. Welcome in. I hope you're having a great Friday. We're at the end of the week and about a third of the way almost through January that quickly. I am so happy to have the holidays behind us so work can return to normal. Everything for me usually slows down about a week before Christmas, and then it usually picks up about I'd say 10 to 14 days after the new year. You'd think it would pick right up, but it doesn't. Traditionally, it kind of, every year it's about the same, where it's like January 2nd, I'm ready to get back to work. And my clients, I mean, they are back to work, but I guess for whatever reason, they don't really generally call for anything until about the middle of the month. And then it's just the regular pattern throughout the rest of the year until we hit Thanksgiving. And then everything gets all uprooted again. So I'm glad to have that behind me so I can return to my comfort zone. Things can get back to what I expect. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to some of the innovation I think that's going to be offered by manufacturers in order to combat this RAM and storage shortage or pricing supply and demand issue that is going to get worse than it is right now. Whatever that you see the prices are at right now, they're only going to get higher. That's the prediction. I believe it's true. So if you think it's expensive now, look again next month. Look again the month after that. Every month it will be more expensive than the month before until it's completely gone, or it's so outrageously expensive nobody's paying for it. So we're not there yet, but that's where we're going this year. On the other hand, price of gasoline has been going down. We'll probably be around the United States an average price of $2 and change, which we haven't seen since the pandemic. And it's not all just going one way, is what I'm saying. There's a counter to it in other areas of life outside of computers, and even this doesn't affect everything with computers, just the RAM and storage. So for manufacturers to remain competitive and offer budget machines, it'll be interesting to see what creative solutions they come up with, such as Minisforum, right out of the gate, one of the first to do so. I do think they would have done DDR4 for that reason, so maybe there's another reason for this. Maybe it's coincidence. But knowing what I know about Minisforum, and one of the reasons you see so many Minisforum computers here is Minisforum doesn't pay me to do this. And you'll see I've purchased several from Amazon. But what they will do often is send us units free for review under no contract. So I'm free to say what I honestly feel about them. I have no dog in the race with regards to losing any money or making any money one way or the other. In much the same way that when I talk to my real life customers in my business, what I'm mostly concerned about is they're going to be repeat customers. And in order to do that, I have to gain their trust. They have to see value, and they have to see that I prioritize them and get the job done, and hopefully get it done right the first time. And if I do all of that, I will be graced to have them come back and buy again, where all of that responsibility falls on me once more. If I don't want to do that, I could probably just close the shop and go work for somebody else. And when their business goes out of business, I can go work for somebody else. I love having this control, and I love being able to extend that to a worldwide audience and talk to every one of you the same way I talk to my real paying clients in what I'm looking for value, what to expect out of a machine, and when I would be concerned that I'm overpaying or underpaying for what I'm getting. I'm open about all of that. So with that in mind, if you're new here, you're going to find my video channel is not the commercials that you're accustomed to seeing. These videos run long because, quite frankly, whenever you get a brand new computer from anyone, the first thing you need to do before you do anything is update it, and you will never see reviewers do that. So you don't know what they're reviewing. Did they update it before they reviewed it, or are they reviewing it without the updates, which could impact the outcome of their review? And they're often paid and under contract with scripted, polished, edited videos that they control what they want you to see, and they remove what they don't want you to see. I don't have that option because I'm live and I'm unscripted and unrehearsed, just like I am in front of a real life customer. Can you imagine? What a bizarre out of the box way to think this through. Just do it the same as you do it in real life. Well, not everybody on YouTube gets it. And as far as I know, there's very few tech channels that will be not, having something to risk by being too honest, whether that's a company no longer working with them, or they're just not going to collect money, or they don't even know how they feel about it until they write it all down and script it. You can't talk to a customer that way. Customer's asking you a question. It is not appropriate to say, let me do some research on this and carefully craft my answer professionally, and then I will return your call with an answer that might work in an email, but in a live person-to-person, one way of validating somebody's experience and knowledge is to quiz them on the spot. And if they need to go back and do research, I think it's something to keep in mind. They may not be an expert in that particular field that you're asking them, and it may not be the best person you can choose for the job. So if you're somebody that's hiring, if you're somebody that's looking to bring somebody in, whether as an employee or a contractor, and you have somebody who has enough knowledge to do the hiring to know what questions to ask, what you don't want to hear are AI answers, generic answers, or excuses, because that's ultimately the kind of person you're going to hire, generally speaking, is somebody who's not getting the job done, but will give you all the boilerplate answers and excuses. You want to hear somebody who can answer off the top of their head quickly, they're confident, and they appear to have, they appear to care very much about the quality of what they're doing and the pride that they have. And that's nothing AI can present you with, and it's nothing you can fake. You just can't fake that. So by doing these live, unscripted, and unrehearsed, it exposes my knowledge, the lacks, the holes or the gaps in my knowledge. And it demonstrates that sometimes I get surprised, I get information wrong. and I correct it. It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be edited out like I never made a mistake. Because if you buy any of the machines that any of the YouTubers show you, you will need to do the updates. And if those updates take a half an hour, they edited all that out or they didn't do it. So they're kind of lying to you by omitting this very important step in getting a new computer. And without knowing if they did the updates, then how do you know that any tests they did will be reflective of the tests you do in your experience after you get the updates? That's why it's all just advertising. It's manipulative. They're there to make money. I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong. I'm saying I want nothing to do with that, because that's not what I do with my real life customers. I'm held accountable. After I sell it to them, I don't just vanish. If they have any problems or concerns, I'm going to be getting the call back. And the way I run my business is I can't charge for that. That's all under warranty. So if I did a good job, then I made profit. If I screwed up or misled the customer or did not meet customer expectations, then it comes out of my profit. May not make me rich, but I sleep well at night, and I feel like any business with integrity would run the same way. But that's what differentiates me. In case you're new here and you wonder, why are these videos different? It's just another PC review. It really isn't. It's more like a friend sharing an experience with you. And in saying that, let's share the unboxing experience. This has never been opened before. I've never seen this before. I'm familiar with Minisforum, and I like the quality and the products and the novelty and the innovation Minisforum consistently comes out with. So I'm always eager. You know, this is not a chore for me. I enjoy very much unboxing something different instead of the same old thing. And this is interesting because it's almost a mix of two things. It's kind of the same old thing mixed with a little blend of the new, and that helps keep that price down. All right, are we ready? David Graham said he spent an hour setting up his friend's PC. Yeah, good luck finding a video showing that unedited, right? There's so many little details and nuances that are just glazed over like they don't exist. And of course, those content creators hold no accountability. So if you buy that and you feel like you were tricked, that there was more to it than what was shown, there's no recourse for you to that content creator. There's nothing you can do. They are shielded from any liability. You can return the product, but it's not the manufacturer's fault. You were misled. So just bear that in mind. Your decisions are your accountability. The content creator's decisions, they don't have any accountability. And my decisions are I'm held accountable to my customers, or they take their business somewhere else, and then I don't have a business anymore. And I'm just extending that here on YouTube. That's all I'm doing. All right, just so I'm clear, if I haven't been clear on that, it should be pretty clear. I just want to check one more time before we get to the unboxing if there's any other questions. John Williams said he paid $2.29 a gallon. That's a really good price. It's about a little over $3 a gallon here in Phoenix. He mentions 89 octane. What's interesting, in Phoenix, we have 3 octane levels, 87, 89, and 91. And what I didn't realize is that the regular 87 octane versus the 91 high octane are blended together in the pump, in the fuel pump, when you hit the middle button. So there isn't a middle grade. There's no such thing. It's not like the tanker truck is delivering mid grade. The low octane and the high octane are blended together at half and half to create that middle octane, which I had no idea, but it makes sense. And I just learned that the other day. It's funny we'd be talking about that. Now, other states, the low octane is 89, and I think the high octane is 93. But on the West Coast here, it's a little bit lower. Anyway, a little off topic there. So many of you around the country are paying under $3 a gallon already. All right, unboxing. This is the Minisforum M1 Plus with the 12600H processor. Minisforum's unboxing, you know, I don't have to get the razor blade and cut the boxes open. They just have a pull tab. It says tear to open. Okay. And in the box, it looks like this. Let's go to our close-up camera. So we have this, I really like this, what I would call egg crate style of packaging. It's not messy, you know, you're not tearing open things, and it has really good crush zones all over it, which means what's inside is likely going to arrive without any damage. I also like that they're not using the plastic anymore. This is like a paper material, which makes it much easier to get out of the bag. And the PC looks exactly as shown, although the top of it's pretty neat. It's got these, like a paint job. There's no texture. It's just like smaller squares getting larger diagonally. Just ventilation on the sides. There's no SD card reader or anything like that. Pretty much exactly as pictured. If you're going to open it and work on it, you're going to have to take the rubber feet off to get to the screws underneath. I'm not a big fan of that, but it is what it is. And let's see what else we have in the box. So we have like a false bottom here. That's the support that keeps the things underneath from getting crushed. And if we remove that, we've got some documentation, but make no mistake, this isn't the documentation you want. You want to go online, go to Minisforum's website and download the full PDF file. This is just real basic stuff here. We have that HDMI cable. We have a cloverleaf or Mickey Mouse style power cable that would plug into the power brick right here. This power brick is 2 amps. It's 120 watt, 19 volt power brick. It does not say Minisforum anywhere on here. If I were you, I would get a label maker to make sure these two things, should they become separated, you want to make sure this is only used on this. And if you use a different power brick on here, you could burn this up. So I do appreciate sometimes Minisforum does print their name on these, but when they don't, even a silver Sharpie marker, just write Minisforum on it, because it's just a matter of time before these get separated. Just because this barrel connector fits doesn't mean it's the right power adapter. You plug this into your clock radio, you're probably going to start a fire. I'm just saying, be very cautious about that. So this just fell out of the box. What's this? These are some screws. These are likely for mounting, I'm going to guess, the VESA bracket, which we have here. So we've got some screws for the VESA bracket included with the VESA bracket. And then we have these screws here, which again, they kind of look like M.2 screws, but this only has one M.2 slot in it. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look up the documentation to figure out what these little screws are for. And then finally, the last thing you have in the box, because the rubber feet have to be removed to get this opened up, sometimes the sticky material, the adhesive, it stops becoming so adhesive and your feet won't stay on. So they give you 2 spare feet. Now, if they had just drilled holes in these feet so that you could get to the screws underneath, or if they had simply moved the feet over by about 1/4 of an inch to leave the screws exposed, I don't know why they're covering something that you would never see to begin with. It's not like it's a piece of furniture and you're trying to hide the screws from what's holding the wood together. This is on the bottom. On the other hand, it does look really easy to open, so there is that. Case is all plastic. Plastic is good because that when you get these fancy metal cases, those cases cost a lot more to make, and they block Wi-Fi and Bluetooth signals, so you're not going to get as good range out of a case made of metal. So you're going to sacrifice performance for the look of it. So here, with all plastic, that helps keep the cost down. You don't necessarily worry about fingerprint smudges and things with metal cases. And granted, it's not as elegant looking as a metal case, but it's also not as elegantly expensive and gives you better Wi-Fi and Bluetooth signals since you don't have a metal shield essentially blocking the signals from their source, which is such a bizarre thing companies will do to go after a particular look. You know, to each their own, but be aware that there's no manufacturer immune from that phenomenon. What you can do, of course, is if you're a manufacturer, you can make the antennas external where you screw the antennas on. Some people find that unsightly. What are you going to do? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all this back in the box. And oh, I need the power adapter so we can turn it on. I have a power plug. I'll keep the spare feet, the documentation, and really quickly, let me just look up the documentation on this, which should explain to us what those other sets of screws are for, because I always forget to go back and look. So what I'm going to do is go back over to Minisforum's website here, and you can join me on this little journey as I figure this out. Let's see if we go under support. Okay, this is support for the store. I need support for the product itself. And I don't think it's on the store page. So how would we find it? We type in Minisforum support. And likely this first link is what we want. Yes. User manuals, that's what I want. And search for, because they have so many products, right? It's an M1 Plus. Search. And right down here is the user manual. Now you're going to see this user manual is very different from what's included because this thing is multiple pages. Let's see, it says those screws are mounting screw set. Doesn't really tell me. Just says mounting screw set. Interesting. Usually right in the beginning, it's going to tell you what these parts are used for. And it looks like instead of having multiple variations of the documentation in different languages, they've published one set of documentation where each line is a separate language. So that way you don't have to download different PDF files for your particular language. But it also means you're going to fly through this very quickly because pretty much for me anyway, that's the only part of that I can read. So then I can skip to the next only part I can read, right? And then all this other, just skip right through it. And then of course, if you need anything from their support side, the M1 Plus, you have your drivers and downloads here. They don't often have BIOS updates on many PCs, but if you want to check to see, this is where you would find it if it exists. Now here under drivers and downloads, when I click on this driver package, it's starting to download it up here in the corner. And it looks like it's about 900 megs of drivers. So if you wanted to do a complete wipe and reinstall and put your drivers back on, you just go to the Minisforum page and download it. There's FAQs, tutorial videos, and product specifications listed here. And it's a great resource for those of you who own Minisforum product. Okay, so just to put that out there. For some reason, I think I kicked that off twice. I'm going to just disable both of those because I don't need them. And let's come back over to camera 1. And let's plug this thing in and give it its first boot. So let me clear this out. Move all this out of the way. And let's see, to plug this in, when we do our very first power on, you're going to see whether or not I got shipped a bad unit. This is live and unscripted. You've got to know the only way I can confidently do this live and unscripted is if the number of units I receive always work, that I have no problem or concern about getting a product that doesn't work. If you receive a product that has a problem, it likely happened during the shipping process. There's no way a manufacturer is going to go through all the expense of shipping this without verifying first at the factory it's functional. So if you get something that's not functional, it's brand new from the manufacturer or a real authorized reseller of those products, I'm not talking eBay or Facebook Marketplace, then you should have the peace of mind of knowing the likelihood of you getting a bad product is far, far greater than the likelihood of that product getting damaged in shipping. It's possible it can get damaged in shipping, but it's so rare these days. If you're always getting products damaged in shipping, it's likely your delivery driver who's treating it like a football. You know, that's not the manufacturer's fault. That's not necessarily, that's the delivery company's issue. And if you can catch it on camera, you'll probably find the source of why you see so many bad products. The manufacturers can only do so much, and until those bad delivery drivers are reported, there's not much you're going to be able to do. But don't get mad at any manufacturer because you received a defective product. These days, with everything being made in another country, they're in China mostly, or in other Asian countries, the shipping is expensive, and they're going to make sure before it leaves the factory, it works. Otherwise, it's costing them a lot of money. And then for you to get angry about it, trust me, they're not happy about it either. Anyway, it's because of that that I feel confident that I can turn this on for the first time and we're not going to have any problems. It is so unlikely. It's possible, it's just not likely. And I'm about to prove it to you. So I need a power cable. I have spare power cables, so I just left the original power cable in the box. I do not plug this into the internet on a first boot. I need an HDMI cable, so we'll plug this into our streamer so we can get the video output to share with you on your monitor. This essentially lets me use your monitor as one of my monitors. I'm the only content creator in the world who's got 400 monitors in use at the same time. So this is your monitor. Think of it like that. And then apart from power, I just need a keyboard and a mouse. So I'm going to just grab my little combo portable keyboard and mouse here. Use my single dongle, plug it into the USB 2 ports. These USB 2 ports are ideal for keyboards and mice. Having your keyboard or mouse plugged into a faster USB port does not make you a faster typer. I know it's silly to sound that out loud, but you'd be surprised. Okay, power cable. We'll plug that in right there. Okay, we ready? I'm going to turn this on. We do get a blue light right there. I hear nothing at all, no fans or anything. That's good. Let me switch over to this output. So that's going to be this option here. And then I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to put myself down in a corner. And you can see it's already started to boot. And we're going to go through our first boot up experience, again, without any internet, no printers, no flash drives. Just three things: power, video, keyboard, mouse. I guess keyboard and mouse are really four. You know, that's two things by themselves. I count it as one. It's one dongle. Anyway, those three things are what I plug in. And then just a minute, you're going to see our standard out-of-box experience from a typical Windows install. Now, for some people, they just don't trust Windows installs from manufacturers. That's no problem. You can download Windows 11 Pro 25H2 from Microsoft for free. It's all legal. And just wipe and reinstall. Go download your drivers from Minisforum. And have, you know, if that's what makes you happy, welcome to do that. Okay, but I have no reason not to trust this install, and I do believe it's going to be the same install anyway, but you have options. That's all I'm saying. I may not agree with them, but that's okay. I don't have to. Let me go full screen over here so I can see this the way you do. And let's dump camera 1 for a minute here so I can really use your monitors. Thank you for letting me borrow your monitor. Let's see, English United States. Yes, that's what I want. Continue. And then it wants to know what country I'm in. Okay, I'm in the United States. This is important because there's different laws that Microsoft must abide by. The European Union rules don't apply to me, for example. It's a US keyboard layout. Absolutely, that's true. And I'm not using a secondary language. So I don't need to set that up. I am not going to connect to Wi-Fi, so I click down here that I don't have internet. And then it asks me to review the license agreement. Of course, I have to accept it. I don't have a choice. It wants a name. Who's going to use the computer? I usually just put in the name user, and I leave the password blank so I can have it boot right to the desktop without stopping and asking for a password. That's very easily bypassable. It's just security theater. Makes people feel good, I guess, but not me. I turn everything off but location settings. That's going to fix the date and time. So don't even worry about the date and time. So long as you turn location settings on and hit next, after we connect it to the internet, it'll get to the time server and set the date and time. Those days of setting your date and time manually are the old ways of doing things. And if you still want to do things the old way, that's fine. You can do it the hard, complicated way that makes it open to errors. People are often the source of technical support calls because they did something incorrectly. And when you find out you never had to do it to begin with, you might feel a little embarrassed. So, but you know, to each their own. I'm going to accept those choices. And finally, it should go ahead and make the adjustments and changes based on how we just answered all of those questions, as any brand new fresh Windows install should. What I don't want to see is I don't want to fire up a brand new mini computer and have it boot to the desktop. There are some mini computer manufacturers out there that are selling on Amazon. That's what they do. So that's very disconcerting, and that's something where I would just reinstall the operating system, because I don't know how they answered all those questions. And furthermore, they might have installed some software I don't want, or could be potentially spyware or worse. So you absolutely want to see an out-of-box experience unless you're buying a used computer, in which case, you know, you would want to if I were you, I'd want to reinstall the operating system. But here, when it's running exactly like it should, it means there's no bloatware. It's just a standard Windows 11 install. And once it's done with this, we'll verify the CPU, RAM, storage, and we'll plug it into the network, and we'll have it go ahead and adjust the date and time. And it just handles everything automatically, which is, you know, less to worry about, so that you can actually use the computer rather than just configuring it all day long, but never actually using it for anything. But again, maybe that's your thing. I don't know. To each their own. You'll notice these items that are ghosted out on the start menu. That's because those aren't filled in yet, because based on where we told the Windows operating system what country we were in, there are laws that prevent certain things from appearing here, depending on where you live. So I'm going to plug the internet in. This is when you plug your internet in. When you reach this stage, it doesn't matter which of the two LAN jacks you use on the back. Either one of them's fine. In just a minute, if I get rid of camera 1, you'll see on the bottom right, you'll see a little monitor blinking, and then it becomes solid. And then after it becomes solid, you'll see those little ghosted icons fill in based on your region. That's why it does that, in case you were wondering. And if I go back full screen over here, again, thank you for letting me use your monitor. It looks like we're in 4K resolution, which is hard for me to read. So I'm going to right click on the desktop and change this back to 1920 by 1080 so as I can seize it better. And we're going to keep those changes. And I'm going to hit Windows Update. Now I want you to notice the date and time down here. It's pretty darn close. It looks like it's got me set to Pacific time, but I'm actually in Mountain Standard Time in Arizona. So what I need to do is just tell it to set my time zone automatically. I don't know why that's not on by default. But as soon as I turn that on, you should see it jump ahead an hour. And it did. So now we've got the correct time. See, I didn't have to do anything. It's already done for me. Now I'm going to go to Windows Update. And we'll start that process. And since that takes a few minutes, while we're waiting on that, we'll check out our specs. So here I'm going to turn this feature on. I go to advanced options. These are my personal preferences to turn this on and turn this on, turn this on. And as far as optional updates so far, 0 are available. Now I'm going to right click on the start menu and I'm going to go to System. And that's going to tell me all about the computer's configuration specification. This is the 12th gen 12600H. Now it idles at 2.7, but when it turbos up, it turbos at, 4.5, just like a turbo on a car. It's got 32 gigs of RAM installed, and we can open this up and verify that it's regular socketed DDR5 versus the low power LP DDR5, which is almost always soldered in. So I do believe this is something we can upgrade, and we'll verify that here in a moment. We can verify it is Windows 11 Pro, not Home, and it's version 2.4H2. 2.5H2 just came out in October, so it won't yet be released to manufacturing for most products that you're buying pre-built. It'll take a while for that to have a new image built by there's somebody at the company who has to design the images with the drivers and then redeploy that image and then to the factory floor. And that takes a few months because they don't just do that without thorough testing. So it's normal right now to still get 24H2. If you're getting 23H2, you're likely buying a computer that's been on the shelf over a year. That may be why you got such a good price on it. So 24H2 is normal at this time. Eventually, probably around March or April, we'll start seeing 25H2. But in the meantime, it's up to you to go ahead and get that update if you want to be safe online. I like to just check my power settings to make sure this thing won't go to sleep on us while we're live. So I type in the word edit down here on the start menu, and you see it says edit power plan. I just hit enter, and it's out of the box set never. Okay, I mean, it's neither here nor there. You can set it to whatever you want. I'm going to put 2 hours here, but I never want the computer to go to sleep unless it has batteries. I don't even think that should be offered to anybody who has a computer that doesn't use batteries, but that's my opinion. I'm very strongly opinionated about that because sleep mode on a computer without batteries can often create problems where it doesn't wake up properly. That results in support calls that are completely avoidable for essentially, it's like going to the doctor and saying, hey, doc, it hurts when I do this. And the doctor says, well, don't do that. If it's not something that's absolutely required for the operation of the computer, but it ends up creating problems, they're not worth the time invested to solve a problem that's in your mind. It's not an actual problem preventing the computer from working properly. It's the fact that you're trying to enable something that doesn't have to be enabled. Now, if there's batteries involved, then yes, there's a very good reason to turn that on. But if there's no batteries involved, I can't make any heads or tails as to why anybody would voluntarily subject themselves to the possible current or future issues that will manifest over, either right away when you turn it on or over time. Just because you're not having a problem with it today, so long as you keep using that unnecessarily, you open that possibility up because it's very, very common, and it's so stupid, in my opinion, that anybody would turn that on without a computer that uses batteries, that you would invite that opportunity for troubleshooting and anxiety and frustration. So I wish the option wasn't there, unless you had a laptop or, again, a computer with batteries, then it would make sense. But ask me how I really feel. All right, so with Windows Update running, we can just kind of check in here. It doesn't look too bad. We've got some updates happening here. I'm going to say no thanks on this. And while that runs, I'm going to jump back over into our chat room here and see if you guys have any questions for me. Back over here. All right, let's see what I've been missing. Charlie Purdy saying hello there in the chat. Welcome in to Charlie. Just trying to catch up here with your comments. Andy wants to know, does the time update in Windows update the BIOS clock too? Yes, yes it does. UK Drew says, just to let you know, the top of that PC is magnetic, so you should be able to pull it off to get inside the PC. Is that true? I thought everything was on the bottom. I don't know where you're getting your information. So typically, when the top of a PC is magnetic, there's usually like some finger holds to pull it. But this does not appear. In fact, I would even argue that the inclusion of the rubber feet in the box, the spare rubber feet, implies that you must open it from the bottom. And in order to do that, you have to remove the rubber feet. There would be no reason for you to open it on the CPU side. However, I can't really tell if the RAM is on this side. Oh no, I can see it now. No, this does not have a magnetic top. So either you're talking about something else to somebody in the chat and you weren't talking to me, or you're confused. Okay. Just so you know. Maybe you guys are talking about a different mini PC. So my apologies if I thought you were talking about this one. Oh, and Morton Bob wants to know who makes the network interface cards on this. Great question. Let me run back over to the desktop here. Let me go full screen. And let's right click and go to Device Manager. And let's take a look at who's making the network interface card. We've got two Intel i226 2.5 gig wired connections. And our Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are provided by MediaTek. It's an MT7902. And that's going to be, again, the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on the MediaTek card. Yeah, thank you for reminding me to check that. That's part of my process. Some people want to load Linux or other operating systems that may not have driver support for the particular network card. So that's a good thing to know if that's your intention. For other people, you don't have to worry about it. You know, if you order it, then all the drivers are pre-installed. They wouldn't include it with an operating system where the drivers weren't available or didn't work with that operating system. So this is more for the do-it-yourselfer, just so you know. That's why people ask. Now, once this is done updating, we'll go ahead and do the reboot. We'll check for updates one more time. It'll probably offer us 25H2 would be my guess. But for our intents and purposes today, I'm not going to run this. I don't think we're going to have time to run this through the full suite of tests. But I do want to get that bottom opened up, show you how that opens, and verify that we have 2 sticks of RAM in there in dual channel and not one 32 gig. I want to see 2 16s in there. So I don't know yet until I get into it. I could also run a utility like CPU-Z that was kind of like cheating. It'll tell us what's in there. I also want to see how easily this is accessible, if there's anything attached like any Wi-Fi antennas or something, where you want to be careful when you take this off not to break any wires. Sometimes people get really aggressive. They take the screws out and they use a bit too much force to pop off the plate. And if there's anything attached to that plate, they'll rip the wires right off of it. So we want to make sure when we open this up for the first time, we're very cautious and gentle. Hopefully there's nothing attached to it. They don't have, it's not a big space, so they don't have a lot of slack when it comes to extra wiring. So if there are wires attached to the back of this for any reason, more often than not, it's Wi-Fi antennas. If they were to do that, those wires are only a couple of inches long, because there's no way to coil them all up in there. It's too small of a space. So if you pull it more than the extension of the wires can reach, and those wires are very thin and delicate, you just break it. So I want to just check that for you so we know what to expect on this model. It does vary from model to model and how they design them. And I don't expect anything should be attached. I don't think there's any fan under here. You're not going to have the ability to add a 2.5-inch drive in here. And I think that's a good thing. And by also only having the one M.2 slot, I think that's a good thing as well, because what you're doing is you're trapping heat inside of this. The more stuff that you add in here, the more heat you're putting in. And without an active cooling, you're just going to kill whatever mini PC you've got sooner. In fact, with this USB 4 port, you could put an NVMe drive on externally and achieve pretty much the same speeds externally that you're going to get internally, but at the same time not be anchored into that computer, so that you can remove that drive if something should happen to the computer, or you want the data somewhere else, or maybe you want to use that one drive on 3 computers. Why buy 3 drives when you can buy one, put it in an enclosure, and just plug it into the USB port without sacrificing any speed, without adding more heat, without potentially breaking the unit to open it unnecessarily otherwise, and then be able to unplug it, plug it into another computer and use it there, and plug it into another computer and use it there, take it over to a friend's house. Suddenly now you've got all this freedom, and you're not voluntarily boxing yourself in to all of your eggs in one basket, and then something happens to the basket and everything you have is potentially at risk. So I want you to just be aware that the cost differential and speed differential are negligible. In some cases can be even cheaper, while at the same time not introducing more heat, more power consumption, and more risk. So as far as I'm concerned, the lack of being able to put additional storage drives in this, because people make really bad decisions, they don't understand the consequences. They only see the benefits of it. There's technical consequences that they just don't know. If you take that option off the table, you're going to have happier customers. Tell you right now, just over the long term. My goal in my business is to earn a profit. And I don't want to rip anybody off, and I don't want to overcharge anybody. The minute I have to go back and do a repair because I'm earning such little profit, I mean, this is a business choice. I don't have to do it this way, but this is the way I choose to do it. I want to give my customers the best prices, the best quality, the best service. And in order for that to work, the vast majority of my sales must have no callbacks. Because if I start getting a bunch of callbacks, I immediately start losing money. And at a point where I'm losing money and not making money because I didn't do it right the first time, or I'm selling unreliable product, so I'm losing money and time to have to replace it to keep the customer happy, I still might lose the customer anyway. They might just think the whole thing was an inconvenience. And even though I did everything right by them and it cost me money to do it, they still may never order from me again. This is a no-win for me. The only way I can win is if I can sell it once, make a minimal amount of profit, and the thing runs reliably, at least for the warranty period. Because if it doesn't, then that's my fault for recommending it to begin with. It's my responsibility to do what it takes to get it fixed. And I'm the one that the money's going to come out. I can't go back to the customer and say, Well, I'm sorry you don't like the new computer, that it's causing you grief. I'm going to charge you hourly to fix it. Now, if the customer buys their own computer and says, hey, can you come out and set this up for me? Then I bill them by the hour. And if they have any problems, I say that's between you and who you bought it from. I got nothing to do with it. And if you want me to have something to do with it, I'm happy to charge you by the hour. No different than a mechanic. If you bring a car part to a mechanic and say, will you install this alternator? Usually mechanics will say no. But sometimes the mechanics will say, if you understand that if there's any problems with this alternator, I'm billing you for my time regardless. If this alternator doesn't fit, if it's broken, and so we end up replacing your bad one with another bad one, I'm still charging you the full labor rate. And if 3 months from now this alternator goes bad, I will not be replacing the labor of the, whatever it costs to replace it. No. You will be on your own to send that alternator back or replace it. And if you want to bring it back to me and pay me all over again to do the same exact job for the same amount of labor, that's your choice. But if you buy the part from me, then I guarantee it. You understand? So pick a lane. So I would say most businesses will not deal with you bringing in your own parts. It would be like going into a steakhouse with your own steak and saying, will you cook this for me? Unless it's a small mom and pop, there's no big chain restaurant with liabilities that's going to say, oh yeah, we can throw that. I brought my own food. Did you put it on the grill? That's so dangerous because they don't know what you brought in, what potential damage it could cause, or if there's anything spoiled about it that could, infect the plates or silverware or other areas in the kitchen that can get other people sick. Why would they do that? That's insanity. You bought the steak, go home and cook it. You bought the alternator, go put it in yourself. But yeah, you can absolutely pay somebody to do the labor, but they will not be held responsible for the consequences of whatever that part turns out to be. If it's faulty, if it's the wrong part, doesn't fit, doesn't have the right connectors on it, or it fails. Even if it fails in warranty, it's not the installer's warranty. It's the manufacturer's warranty. My business is no different. If customers want to buy machines somewhere else and pay me to come out and fix them, that's much better profit for me. On the other hand, if I sell them computers that either I built myself or I know are good, reputable, quality machines at a fair price, so that I'm not getting support calls, I don't make as much money, but I'm also not called back as often. So that usually means a happier customer. And I try and let the customers know, I'm happy to work on whatever you've got. But if you buy it from me and there's a problem with it under its warranty, I have to fix it at my own cost. So you got to think about, where are you really saving money? Are you saving money doing it yourself? And if so, I hope you're your own tech support. Otherwise, that's probably not a good path for you. Other times it's companies that don't have a choice. Companies already have this investment of equipment and they need somebody to just come in and maintain it. That's really good money for me, because oftentimes that equipment has proprietary parts. Things like Dells and HPs often use, not so much today, but still a little bit, their own power supplies and have their own upgrade limitations, and often use very inexpensive parts. Like they still use mechanical drives on some machines, and just switching that out to a solid state drive can make a huge difference in performance. And if they've got 20 or 30 of them in an office, that's good money for me. I'm happy either way. If anything, I make a little less money by selling it myself, but at the same time, the goal is the long-term game, which is the customer will be very happy with how reliable what I sold them is. They don't need to call me for any support, at least nothing to do with the computer. And they'll want to buy again from me and refer me to others. That's how I grow the business. That's my philosophy. And I'm not telling you it's the right philosophy, because I'm not a millionaire. I doubt this is a way to get to be a millionaire. But it's very important to me that the morals and ethics of my business, it's not a charity, okay? But it's also not taking advantage of people. I worked with a guy who would vary his rates based on what kind of car he saw in the driveway and what kind of house. So if he's pulling up to do on-site service and he sees a pretty fancy car in the driveway and a pretty large, 3,000 plus square foot house, I can pretty much guarantee you when they ask him how much it's going to be for the exact same job that this guy would have done somewhere else where somebody had a house half the size and an older, beat up car in the driveway. Same job, same guy doing the same work. The customer that has the bigger house and the nicer car will be charged twice as much. I don't subscribe to that. And by the way, that guy is a lot wealthier than me. So anyway. Looking at our progress here, just waiting on Microsoft. While we're waiting, this is just a great time for us to interact. If you have questions for me, this is a great time for us to talk, because as soon as this is done, my attention will be off of the chat room and I'll be back onto this. We'll take the bottom off of it. We'll take a look inside. Ella Linda says the downloads are not running very fast today. Yeah, this is sort of like putting a frozen pizza in the oven and then just looking through the little oven door, watching it cook for the next 30 minutes. It's not going to make you less hungry. You can watch that pizza cook for an hour and only 30 minutes goes by. So normally, something like that, you set a timer on the oven and you walk away, or you just periodically check back in. I would recommend the same attitude on this. It's just that we are live, and it's important for me to show you these steps that other content creators omit, and they're effectively lying to you. They're not providing you with all the information, because doing so is too time-consuming and the attention span of the viewer won't tolerate it. But if you then, as a short attention span viewer, go and buy one of these, and then you're certainly not going to have the patience to go through all this. So I want you to be prepared. I don't want you to have any surprises. And there's no manufacturer of PC that you can buy from where you don't have to do what I'm doing right now. The only difference would be a custom builder like myself. I'll do all this for the customer. I will do the out-of-box experience for the customer and answer the questions for the customer. I'm not supposed to. My customers really appreciate it that I do that for them. And I get all the updates done. I get all the testing done. Then and only then will it get delivered. So the customer can immediately start using it. And they pay extra for that service. It's not something other manufacturers do. And Microsoft doesn't want them agreeing to the license agreement. They want the end user to do that. So this, what I do for my customers is very, it's a more informal, like a friend helping a friend, versus, a traditional corporation with all these policies and procedures and rules. Yes, I have rules and policies and procedures, but nowhere near what these companies have, because I don't need them, and I can offer a more personalized service. They can't do that. They got too many customers that can't personalize it. So it's a scalability thing. So unless you have somebody that, in your town or your area that that does that kind of personalized service, you need to be aware that there's no computer you can buy on the market where you don't have to do what I'm doing right now. And yet very few reviews on YouTube will ever show this on a brand new computer review. I want you to keep that in mind. Your information is being withheld from you. And if somebody doesn't tell you that, how would you know? Raymond wants to know, can you add TPM 2.0 to a motherboard? Well, it depends on the motherboard. Since about 2015, TPM 2.0 has been built into the CPUs. So to add another one wouldn't make any sense when you've already got one. And if what you're trying to do is get Windows 11 compliance, Windows 11 requires the CPU have certain instruction sets built into it, as well as TPM. So it kind of depends on what's the board you've got, and why, what are you trying to accomplish with the TPM? Because if it's just to install Windows 11, it still won't pass. If you actually look at the Windows 11 requirements, there's about 6 things your CPU has to be able to do. TPM is just one of those things. You need a UEFI BIOS, there's a bunch of stuff. So secure boot. So if you're trying to keep an old computer compatible, you can't. You can keep an old operating system on it, but you haven't told me why, and you haven't told me what the board is. But if it's 10 years old or younger, if it's no more than 10 years old, then you just don't know you already have the TPM built on your CPU. External TPMs were used back in like the early 2000s and maybe anything prior to 2015. So asking me something you may not realize is that that hasn't been a thing for 10 years. But again, I don't know why you're asking. All I'm missing is TPM. No, there wouldn't. Well, hold on a minute. So what is the CPU? Because if your CPU meets everything but the TPM requirements, then that means you don't have the TPM enabled on the CPU. But if your CPU does not have a TPM built into it, it does not meet Windows 11 security requirements, and there's nothing you can do other than replace it. So, but we can verify that if you tell me is it an AMD, is it an Intel, what's the model? And you'll see that, well, I'll be able to see if in fact what you're telling me is true. I think you're misunderstanding the information, but I need to know that information before I can confirm. But I suspect you're not really comprehending the security requirements. But I can, again, when you tell me the make and model of the CPU, I can verify that for you. It's generally not that simple. So you're telling me about your motherboard, but I didn't ask you. It's like I just asked you what size waist you have, and you gave me your shoe size. So it would help me a lot. It would really help me to help you if you would provide me the information I'm actually asking you. I don't care what motherboard you have. At this point, I'm asking which CPU you have, because we can quickly determine if that CPU is Windows 11 compatible. That's where you need to start. If it is compatible and you're having a TPM issue, then I'll ask you the motherboard. But if your CPU isn't compatible, there's no sense going any further with any more detail. Just so you know the reasoning behind my questions. They're not random. They go in a specific order to determine, if this journey stops here or if we continue the journey further with regards to your question. Okay, so there we go. Thank you, Raymond. He says he's got an Intel i3 9100F. So the Intel i3 9100F has a built-in TPM. And one of the things you can do is if you go to Google, let's go up here to my window capture. And here's what I would do if I were you. We just open a browser tab and we'll type in does or is, or just keep that word out, i3 9100F Windows 11 compatible. Okay, yes. It's not on Microsoft's officially recommended list for new computers. In other words, if you were to buy a brand new computer today, like this Minisforum, if it had a 9th generation, Microsoft says no, not supported. But if it's made a few years ago, then it is supported. So anything new, this is important. So let's continue. There's a mention of TPM 2.0. So then the question is, does that have TPM 2.0? And again, we can see, Yes, it is built into the chip. There's nothing for you to add to your motherboard. This is where I think you were misunderstanding information online. What you have to do is you have to turn that on. So when you go in your motherboard BIOS, and it looks like you've got a Gigabyte motherboard, what you're looking for in the BIOS is a setting that Gigabyte will refer to as PTT, or Platform Trust Technology, and make sure that's turned on. So if you don't know how to do that, what I would do is I would say up here, how to enable TPM, and you said it was a B365 DS3H or something like that, and it's going to step you right through the entire process. And then you should be Windows 11 compatible. You don't have to add a TPM. You've already got it. All you have to do is turn it on. And if you still need any more help, or if I've left you more confused, let me know and I will try better. But it should be a pretty easy thing. Just go into your BIOS, turn that feature on. And I think on Gigabyte, it's listed under a section called Peripherals, and then look for Platform Trust Technology, or PTT. Make sure that's enabled, then save and exit, and then you should be good to go. That's it. All right, let's get back over to our computer here, see how we're doing. I appreciate the question. That helped a lot to get you the answer you were looking for. Raymond said a B365 DS3H. B365, what did I type? Yeah, I guess I got it right? I did type it correctly. If you're not exactly sure, by the way, how to get into a BIOS, what a BIOS is, like if you're that far behind, we all have to learn at some point. And if you're willing to learn, then you're going to have to get into some unfamiliar territory here. And here on YouTube, there are plenty of videos that walk you through that. If you scroll down, like if you just follow the same example, go to Google, type in exactly what you've seen me type in, you should get exactly the same results. And you're going to see these videos, how to enable TPM 2.0 on Gigabyte boards. I don't know who this is, nor do I care. Now, this one is an external module, and you don't need it anymore, and he's probably explaining that. And you'll see he goes into the BIOS, and he's going to look for, well, here he's in an AMD CPU. You've got an Intel, so it's a little different on Intel. Does he show Intel? Yep. So under peripherals, he's going to Intel Platform Trust Technology, and you're going to turn that on. You see it says disabled. So I don't want to share this guy's whole video, but roll with punch. Looks like he did a great job here on this video. I'm going to give him a thumbs up on that. I hope you'll do the same for me. And if you follow his video, he walks you right through it. And after that, you should, save and exit up here. You should be good to go. All right. And if you still run into any issues, let us know. We'll try and help you out best we can. It's really hard to anticipate what problems you could have. So you go through the process. Likely it's going to be a lot easier than you thought. Save your money. Don't buy things. Don't try and add anything on. Just push the right buttons, turn that on. You're good to go for the rest of that computer's life unless you change it for some reason. And if at any point you get stuck in the process, we're here to help. We also have a lot of great folks in our community that are happy to assist you as well. So even later, as I'm taking this apart and I'm not paying attention to the chat, don't be shy about asking follow-up questions and looking to other community members to help guide you. Those that have been watching me for a long time have probably heard me display, explain, and discuss the TPM in Windows 11 about 1,400 times. So they should know it by heart by now. It doesn't help that one company calls it TPM and another company calls it PTT. It's the same thing, just so you know. All right, so let's see. Yeah, these updates are definitely taking a little bit longer. Here's the problem. If I do these updates, like if I were to take this out of the box and get it all updated for you today, then I'm really doing what all the other content creators are doing and skipping over this very critical and important step that you cannot avoid unless you want to be at risk online. So my first priority is to make sure that you're going to have a great experience with the computer, and that includes performance, reliability, and security. And fresh out of the box, and all that traveling from Asia to the distribution to the, eventually it gets to your door, it's going to be missing very critical updates. So the very first thing I want to emphasize is you do these updates, and you might say, well, they take a while. Well, plan accordingly. Don't just rip it out of the box and start setting this thing up with your printer and your software and everything else, because you might find out something's wrong with it and you need to send it back, and you just wasted all of that time. So build on a solid foundation. Slower will be faster by just taking your time, verifying everything works good, is secured, is updated, is functioning properly. Then, one thing at a time, start putting software on it, restart the computer. If you have any problems, you'll know the last thing you did is the cause. If you did 10 things before you rebooted it, then you know one of those 10 things you did is the cause. Well, good luck figuring that out. How is that making your life faster? Unless you like rolling the dice and you do 10 things and reboot and there's no problems, in which case, good for you. But what if that doesn't happen? What's your plan? For many people, the advice is to wipe it clean and start over again. Now you're spending 2 to 3 times longer instead of just slowing down and doing it in the proper order with reboots in between. You'll get it done. You didn't get your computer all configured in one day. This isn't something that's happened and evolved over time. So if you get a new computer and the first thing you want to do is make it look exactly like the old one, you've had years to configure the old one. What makes you think you're going to do that all in one day? That's ridiculous. Give yourself time. You don't need to add that printer unless you need something to print. So if I have a printer to add to this, I'm going to wait. This isn't one of the first things I'm going to do is get my printer configured. I got more important things to check. Then if I've got nothing else to do, I might just add the printer in anticipation of needing it, or I wait until I need to print something, which is likely why you bought the printer. You needed it. Most people don't buy a printer in anticipation of needing it. And when you need it, plug it in, configure it. Sure, it's going to take a little bit longer to print that one page, since you have to go through the setup of the printer, but it's not that much longer. And you're not stressing yourself out by trying to do this mountain of work that you've done over years all in one day. I mean, you do you, but I don't run my business that way. I don't personally set up computers that way. We do things one step and verify each step before we take the next step. And that way we get a guaranteed result every single time. And if we have any problems, we know exactly which step caused the problem. That gets us to a faster diagnosis and solution. So at the end of the day, that's the profitable way to do it. And it also gives me happier customers. And I wouldn't recommend it differently for you. But it's your computer and it's your choice, but do have the proper expectations based on your decisions. Okay, that's all I want. I just want you to have reasonable expectations based on the choices you made. Take responsibility for it. All right, so it shouldn't be too much longer now. It's installing the framework update now, well, it's downloading the security update, so shouldn't have much longer. This thing has been completely silent this whole time. I can hear the ocean. There is a fan running in there, but boy, I've got to get it close to hear it. So if you're sensitive to fan noise, I think you're going to be happy with this. I haven't heard this once. When we run Cinebench on it, that'll be the real test, right? We'll see how hot and how loud it'll get. But under normal use case scenario, you don't even know it's there. Marsman said it's a warm 36 degrees Fahrenheit in Coleman, Wisconsin. Oof, not quite freezing, huh? Actually, we have a cold day here in Phoenix, just 60 degrees Fahrenheit. That's our high for today. And it dropped down into the, is it the low 40s overnight? The desert's pretty extreme. You get pretty extreme cold and pretty extreme hot. And the rest of this week, it'll be warmer. So 60 for us, it's a little nippy, especially if the wind is blowing out there. But unlike the last 2 days where it was overcast, a little bit rainy, we do have clear skies today. So the sun feels good. You get behind, if the sun gets behind the clouds and the wind is blowing, definitely need a coat. But if the sun is out and the wind is mild, or there's no wind at all, t-shirt's all you need. 60's not that bad. But in Phoenix, it is, I think, the coldest day we've had in the last 10 months, if I'm not mistaken. Or I should say the coldest high temperature for the day. I can't remember the last time it's been this cold. I left because, you know, I realized everybody in the chat, except for me probably, and maybe Alan Lindas, is suffering with, you know, freezing temperatures, and I'm here going, it's 60, it's cold out there. That's as hot as it's going to get today, 60. I know, it's preposterous. Paul Verger joins us in the chat, says hello. Welcome in, Paul. Raymond's talking a little bit about information that he got from support. So tech support is usually something that is put in place by somebody who knows less than you do, just in general. It's pretty rare to talk to anybody in technical support that's actually a technical person. And when people talk about AI taking jobs, one of the first jobs that's going away, it already has started to go away, are tech support positions, because an AI can do a much better job at being accurate, consistent, and easy to understand. The reason why tech support is so bad is companies provide it as an obligation, but not as a service. The result is you're getting something for free, but it's not even meeting the basics of technical knowledge. It's just somebody who answers the phone. They're not paid whether or not they help you. They might not even be aware the information they're providing you is false. They don't have any technical knowledge. If they did have technical knowledge, they would not be working in a poorly paying tech support job. They could get a much better job actually working desktop support or field service work. It's sort of like going to the auto parts store and getting advice from the person behind the counter at the auto parts store. If they really understood how to be a mechanic, they'd be making so much more money working as a mechanic. Whatever you do, don't take car diagnostic advice from a car parts store. This is no insult to those employees. They're hardworking employees, but they're not mechanics. I also would not suggest taking diet advice from somebody who's fatter than you. Nor would I personally take gambling advice from a homeless person in the streets of Las Vegas who's going to tell me how to win every time. There are just certain rules of life that should be common sense. when I was working in IT in the 90s, they were always threatening us with outsourcing us if we didn't pick up the pace. We're going to just replace you guys with people in India if you don't step up your game and get more work done. It was a constant threat. Or we're going to outsource you to another company that's going to step in with better quality employees that's going to cost us more. And they often did. Outsourcing has been a thing my whole career that I've been threatened with, that I've lost my job to, and that I have myself been employed by an outsourcing company that replaced somebody's full-time job. All AI is doing in this regard is another form of outsourcing. So if they outsource the employee for a local contractor, they save money. If they can outsource that local contractor to somebody in India or the Philippines, then they save more money. If they can outsource the person in the Philippines or India to AI, then they can save more money. And the AI will actually be a lot smarter, more consistently, and more useful and more helpful than the random person you talk to in support. So for me, support is dead. As far as I'm concerned, if you need technical support now, the best thing you can do is open up Copilot or Gemini, open up ChatGPT or Grok. You're going to get a much better, more consistent, more useful help. You won't make a phone call anymore. You won't sit on hold. You won't talk to somebody with a thick accent that's difficult to understand, who is often giving you the wrong information, and they don't know. They're just working a job. They don't really care. And the people that are in charge don't care if they help you. They care about how many phone calls did you get through today. Well, just 4, but I helped every one of those people. You're fired. Don't come back in tomorrow. We're not paying you to help people in tech support. We're paying you to answer as many phone calls as possible. That's it. You don't get any bonus. You don't get any credit if you actually help the customer. Just get the customer off the phone and get to the next one. That is what tech support is. So technical knowledge is not required to answer the phone. And nor is it followed up on. Nobody calls you back and said, hey, were we helpful? There's no follow-up. So if you want to adapt to the modern way of doing things, it is in your benefit. The sooner you jump on the boat, the better, that you go straight to the source of the information, which is AI. In this medium period where we're sitting between still some companies that have humans answering phones, many of those humans are going to use the AI, if they're smart, and type your question in exactly as you asked it and read exactly what the response is. So unless you're a child and you need a parent to read you a bedtime story, there's no reason that you just can't do that yourself and get your answer faster, clearer, and ask follow-up questions and not have to wait on somebody else to dictate what you're saying. Because eventually, when those people that do that, eventually they'll be completely replaced by AI, and you'll be just chatting with support, which is already starting to be all AI. The problem is when you chat with AI support, you don't know how good that support is. But if you go to a popular AI agent, such as Copilot, ChatGPT, Grok, there's so many of them. They're not always right, but I'll tell you, compared to the tech support that these people that are answering phones in India, the Philippines, Pakistan, I'd say it's about 1,000 times more accurate and more consistent. It's not perfect, but you're also not going to be calling the doctor and talking to a surgeon. If you have a general medical question, you'll be talking to somebody who answers phones, right? If you call a dealership and you want to talk to the mechanic, it ain't happening. Nope. And it's that way for a reason. If you want the service, come in and pay for it. If you want to know how to do it yourself, the information's right there at your keyboard. If you're willing to do the work and do the research and have the tools, have at it. But we're not here to train you. And that's why the world is the way it is right now. And so AI is the big outsource right now for tech support. It's one of the earliest things it's going to replace. And there's no reason for you to have to go through a middleman for that. You can go directly to the AI yourself. And if you're curious, try 2 different AI. It's all free at this point. Copilot's built into Windows. Just open Copilot. Gemini is part of Google. Just type in Gemini and go to Gemini. It's super easy. See if you get consistent answers. And then, of course, there's us here. We're always happy to help. And none of us are answering phones for tech support. Everybody in this chat room is above that level, just so you know. Humans are better than AI. No, no. Again, in this example, AI is going to be far better, far more consistent, and far more accurate than a random person answering the phone at the lowest price in Pakistan or India. I can tell you for 100% fact, AI is far superior. But if it comes to diagnosing things like cars or people, a human is definitely who you want to talk to, because the consequences of that are pretty serious. But give it time. Give it time. And that will reverse. But early on, the first thing I can tell you right now today, going to AI for support is far faster, more accurate, and clearer to understand than any support you're going to call that you're not specifically paying for. So if you're calling a company that's charging you for support, if there is going to be human better than AI, that's where it's going to be, but probably not even then. But if it was going to happen, it's not going to be on a free support. That ship sailed a long time ago. That's my opinion anyway. What do I know? I've only been in the business 35 years, and I've dealt with a lot of people that are technicians that have no business calling themselves technicians, and the AI wipes the floor with them. They're so wrong. They're so miscomprehending information. It's creating a lot of damage to my business when I have to turn around and undo all of the toxic misinformation that they've spread. And then my poor customer doesn't know who to believe. That's really frustrating for me. So AI is not perfect. It's got a long way to go. But one of the early advances that AI can be used for today, right now, that's pretty damn good, is just looking for tech support. Honestly, if you don't believe it's true, then you haven't used it, or you haven't used it in a year. It's gotten so good. I would challenge you to call a free support line with a question, see what they tell you, write it down or record it. Then go to any AI chat chatbot, or not a chatbot, but AI search. Ask the exact same word-for-word question and record the answer. And you tell me, you do that 10 times with 10 different questions. Which one is more accurate? Which one is faster? It's going to be the AI probably 8 out of 10 times. Do your own testing. I put that challenge open to all of you. Prove me wrong. Any chat you want to use, any of the big ones, Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT, Grok, take your pick. DeepSeek. You'll see. Evidence is there. It's not an emotional feeling. It's fact. You don't believe it, then you haven't tested it. I really don't understand why everything is so slow with the internet connection here with this. I really didn't think it would take this long. I think we've been waiting an hour for this, if I'm not mistaken. And I really would like to open this up, and we're already at the 2-hour mark. Again, on the flip side of things, I could have done all this last night. It wouldn't matter how long it took. But then I wouldn't be able to give you an honest unboxing experience. So if you guys have a preference to one or the other, please let me know, because I really want to do what the other content creators aren't doing. But this is probably the reason why they don't do it. So I think what I want to do is just shut this down, and let's at least open this up. We won't be able to really run any tests on it, because those tests won't be accurate until the updates are installed. And there's still going to be some more updates after this. I don't know why it's taking so long, but it's not because of the performance of the computer. That much I can guarantee. So we'll just have to come back to this as far as like Cinebench and Crystal Dismark and see what kind of numbers we get. Maybe we'll do that on Sunday. In the meantime, let me just shut it off. Let's get the bottom opened up. Let's take a look inside, and that way we're not here for another hour, potentially. Normally, I would just set this, let it update, and go do something else. Start laundry, go have dinner. It'll wait for me when it's done. I don't need to be waiting on it. So I'm a little frustrated that by now it hadn't finished, if you can't tell. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to shut it down. And this won't hurt anything. It'll pick up where it left off. Then we'll get all the cables unplugged here. And we'll go back full screen on camera 1. In fact, let me go to camera 2 for the close-up. I mean, it powered off fast. Let's go ahead and just get everything unplugged from back here, including the dongle for the keyboard and mouse. Now, when it comes to removing these rubber feet, when it's brand new, they're pretty easy to remove. I've seen people use tools, and tools can gouge the plastic even though it's on the bottom. The fact that it's brand new, I don't want to gouge it. There is a yellow sticker warning us right here that there are cables connected to the back of this. I didn't think there would be, but it's saying there are cables connected. So when you remove this plate, don't yank it off. You're going to rip those cables. So be mindful of cables attached to this plate and remove it gently. So before we can do that, we got to remove the rubber feet. And what I was saying is when this is new, you can often just use your hands and kind of press in on one side and the foot should just peel off. Now, if you have arthritis or you don't have good finger dexterity, you can use, I would use something that's not metal so you don't gouge in. But if you do use something metal and it does gouge, it's on the bottom anyway. The other thing, as these age, these rubber feet, the adhesive won't come off cleanly. So if the adhesive has been stuck on there for a while, you can see the way it's kind of sticking to the unit right there. And I really want it to stay attached to the foot. Otherwise, if I put the foot in a different location, then whatever I put back over here may not have a strong adhesive if part of the adhesive is stuck here and not on the foot. And then I put that foot over here where there is no adhesive and then it doesn't stick properly. That's why you get 2 extra feet in the box. But man, I just wish you could just have holes in these corners to get to these screws and just move these feet over. By the way, there's no rule that says you just can't put the foot right here. When you put it back together, you don't have to put the feet back in these little recesses. If you want to, you just move the foot yourself. Don't block any of the ventilation. It's not going to make any difference at all. Yeah, this thing may sit up a little bit higher. So what? It's not hurting anything. Just so you know. And see there, the more you take this off and put it back on, you see the adhesive stuck right there. That's what drives me crazy. And then the foot doesn't stick as well because it doesn't have all of its adhesive. And the more you do it, the more you lose, the more adhesion it loses, and eventually the foot won't stay on. So all Minisforum had to do to solve this is just move those feet over. See, I lost a little bit of the adhesion here. So that's why I'm putting these in a certain order. So if I put them back, it'll line up because the adhesion is on both sides. It's on the PC side and on the rubber foot side. It's sticky on both sides. Other than that, I got no complaints. Let me grab my, let me see if I can cheat and use my driver. Oh yeah. Sometimes they have the screws so deep inside these holes, I can't get the bit in there, and I have to use my manual screwdriver. But being able to use an electric driver, that makes my day. So one of the things you're going to see on the back of this computer, on this lid or this back plate, is an arrow that indicates rear, and it's got a little slot, and that's intended for you to put something in, like a credit card or a guitar pick, or iFixit makes these spudging tools, and you can slide it into the slot and lift up. But remember, this yellow sticker says there's internal cables, so let's be very careful when we lift this up. Things really, see what I'm saying? Like there's plastic clips holding this in, and so a typical, like a non-technical person's reaction is to use force. But the problem is once it breaks free, the force keeps moving and you rip the cables. So you want to be really careful here that when we break this free, we're only doing so a little bit at a time. So I can stick my finger in there to hold that up and then come around the edge and just pull away. I don't know if you can see them. I'm twisting and pulling this plastic of the case towards you, twisting this. And that's freeing that clip up without putting a bunch of pressure on this back panel. And there's probably one about here, about in the middle, I would guess, to each of these. So I use my fingers to keep it from kind of closing back up on me. Slide this back through, and it shouldn't require much force at all until we get to the final one over here. Find a way to get that in there. And as we lift this up, I feel wires. Okay, so here's what's happening. This is pretty unusual. We have a fan under here that I didn't realize was down here. Okay, and we have a heatsink for 2 NVMe drives, which is weird because inside of this computer, we only have 1 NVMe drive slot. So it looks like they're reutilizing the same case for other builds, other motherboards, without replacing this, like this is just a factory-made piece. There's no film on either one of these. So when we put this back on, I want you to kind of picture, if this is the rear, right, this is the part that points back here, then the way it's going to go on is like this. And that's going to put that pad right there over that, over this drive. And that this pad over here, this one, there is, geez, this is so backwards for me. Bear with me for a second. There's no slot here. So I like that this is actively cooled. Remember I said when you add more drives in here, you're adding more heat unless you have an actively cooled area, which most don't. Minisforum is actively cooling this. That's amazing. That means that your RAM and your storage are going to stay nice and cool. The fact that you cannot add more heat into this, I'm still a big fan of that. Although this is clearly designed that it can easily handle another NVMe without worrying too much about the heat since it has the heatsink extended. But the motherboard doesn't support that, at least not this model. So let me bring this up to the camera and let me show you a close-up of what it looks like in here. So if we're looking at the computer right side up, it's the bottom we're going to get at. There's nothing on the top user serviceable. Okay, so when we look under here, you can see our NVMe drive that comes from Minisforum is a Kingston Gen 4. And is looking for a model number on there. 0S23002, whatever that means. If we move forward a little bit, that's your BIOS battery. It's a 2032 battery that is wired in. So that means to change this out is not just simply replacing the battery into a socket. You have to replace either with the exact same connector on the other end here, or just, if you're good with soldering tools, to put the wires back onto the replacement battery. These batteries are good for 5 or 6 years though, so I wouldn't worry about it. If you don't like the Wi-Fi card, that MediaTek, it's located right under the NVMe drive. So you can switch that out. It's not soldered onto the board. So if you'd rather go with Intel or Realtek, you can swap it out for Intel or Realtek. But you have to take the NVMe drive out first, and that will expose the Wi-Fi card below. That's pretty standard on these mini PCs. With regards to the RAM, they gave us 2 sticks, thank goodness, so we're in dual channel mode. And it is DDR5, made by ADATA. Looks like it's 5600 speed of the RAM. And that's pretty much it. You'll notice, you'll see where the, over here, where the socket is for the M.2. That bottom lid that we're putting on, that would have another one of these for a different motherboard. It would be located in the same spacing, but just a little bit further down, right about where that chip is. So clearly, This board is designed specifically to have only one NVMe drive. And that is obviously going to affect its price. It's not as upgradable as other models, and it's also not as expensive as other models. So be prepared, understand what you're buying, what you're getting for your money. This seems like a really good, solid value. It is socketed RAM, and you could change these out for 48 gigs apiece. That would give you a total of 96 gigs of total installed memory. I don't know why you'd want it, but there you go. You could say, I just want it because. You know what? Fair enough. I don't have the budget where I can just get things because, unless they're really cheap. Like me, apparently. So with that, putting this back together, make sure you plug this back in, obviously. We'll put the screws back in, put the rubber feet back on. I'll go back to doing the updates, and then we'll be back on Sunday. We'll follow up with our Cinebench and our Crystal Disk Mark benchmarks. I anticipate out of this drive from Kingston, they're usually pretty mid-range Gen 4 drives. So if I see about 5,500 megabytes per second on the reads, and maybe like 5,000, 4,900 on the writes, I'll be happy. The problem with Kingston, from my perspective, is they make drives that are really slow, and they make drives that are respectably fast, and I can't tell them apart. I wish Kingston had different branding for their budget series, so I could at least know what to expect. So this drive might impress me, or it might just be meh. Until I test it, I don't know. All right, any final questions for us? And we'll do our best to provide some answers, whether you have a question about the Minisforum or unrelated questions. I'll do my best to provide answers. I am here for you. We are a community. We are here to talk to one another. Unlike other tech channels, I don't want to insult them. I'm just saying, pointing out what's different. We don't talk at our audience. We interact with our audience. But that requires the audience to want to interact back. Otherwise, it doesn't leave me much choice. Let me try and catch up with what's going on in the chat room. And Martin Bob said he has a slightly different model of Minisforum that looks like the exact same on the outside, but it's different on the inside, and his has 2 NVMe slots in it. I recall pulling a back off of a different Minisforum with this exact same configuration. I just can't remember which model. We see so much variety for Minisforum, I can't keep them all straight. I will tell you, I like every one of them. There are some shortcomings, a lot of nitpicking from me in regards to the rubber feet. I am not a fan of the MediaTek card, strictly because I can't download the drivers from MediaTek. I have to get the drivers from the manufacturer of the PC only. If it were Realtek or Intel, I could go directly to the manufacturers. I hope MediaTek will change that, but that's my only beef with MediaTek. I don't have a problem with their performance or anything else. It's just the fact that I cannot go and get drivers manually from the manufacturer of the Wi-Fi. I must go to the manufacturer of the computer. MediaTek does not sell to the public. Intel and Realtek do, so they make drivers available. So hopefully we'll see that change, but in the meantime, it's a pretty nitpicky thing. I like how small the power brick is, by the way. That's not bad. I also like that the power brick does not plug directly into the wall, because that would block outlets. Furthermore, when they do plug directly into the wall, then the cable's often not long enough for me to reach where I need it to go. So by having a separate cable, just like a laptop, that plugs from the power brick to the wall, it gives me another 6 feet. You will very rarely hear me complain I've got too much cable, especially when it comes to a power cable. And if you look back here, when I say I use my power cables, it's because I went on Amazon and I bought 10-foot long power cables. The cable you see me reach for can go all the way to the camera if I need it to. This is not going to come stock with your laptop or your device. This is something, I don't know, what's something on my cable. This is something that is not typically sold. I'm smelling it. It's typically not sold or included, I mean, when you buy a laptop or a mini. It's usually pretty minimal. It is a mini after all. So anyway, what I'm getting at is this laptop style where you have a separate cable plug-in. It's giving you another 5 or 6 feet of cable. Big fan of that. And doing so, it's also not taking up a big amount of space on your surge protector or your wall wart, whatever you're using there. So, okay. Richard says, I have an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X on an MSI 570A Pro motherboard. It said I didn't qualify for Windows 11, but after I heard Kerry say enabling the TPM and secure boot in the BIOS, I did that, and now I qualify for Windows 11. Yeah, so it's just it's a user education issue. It's not a technology issue. Martin wants to know if I can just go on Amazon, if need be, and just buy generic rubber feet. Do they have to be a certain height? As long as you've got some clearance under here for the air to get in, the taller the foot, the better. So if you want the foot to fit in the little recess, you'll have to shop around a bit more carefully. But if you don't care about using that recess, the problem is if the foot's bigger than the recess and you try and cover it back up again, most of the adhesive under the foot has nothing to stick to. It'll probably fall right off again. So if you don't mind moving the foot inland a bit, or if you get a replacement foot that fits in here, but it's not thick enough to really pull through the other side, you're going to starve this thing of air. You're going to suffocate it. So as long as it's a thick enough foot that either goes outside of the recess or within the recess and still sticks out quite a bit, then those feet are not proprietary in that sense. The reason why they're there is simply to lift this up so air can get under it. That's it. And also not to scratch your desk. So whether or not they're in the recesses or not is optional, so long as the foot can extend beyond that enough to lift this up a bit. Or don't use the recesses, just go, as I demonstrated, on the outside of those recesses, either side, and try and do it as evenly as possible so you don't have any wobbly nature to it. But yeah, you can use whatever you want under those guidelines. Someone 2000 said updating a 25H2 on this bad boy would probably speed things up. That's why I want to do it before I run any testing. So I'll finish those updates tonight. I'll make sure that I'll let that run tonight so we don't have to sit there and wait on a live video. But during the unboxing part, I don't want to ruin the real, genuine, authentic unboxing of how things are wrapped and packaged, because I want you to know when you open your package, if you order one of whatever it is I'm reviewing, it should look exactly the same. It should have everything wrapped up. If things look different, you might have gotten a refurbished or returned unit. John Lewis said, Copilot saved me a lot of time in researching so many different things, from support to looking up various medicines. Absolutely. You can't 100% trust it, but you can trust it a lot more than you can trust support, a free support line. More times it's misinformation than accurate information. There's no incentive for them to be good or to be accurate. There's no accountability for it. So their job is to get you off the phone. Copilot's got all day. ChatGPT, Grok, they got all day. They'll talk to you day and night. They're not being, measured on their performance of how many people they helped or whether or not their help was actually helpful. They just want you to come back and use it again. So the better your experience is, the more likely you'll come back again. The more people come back again, the more they can continue to invest in it and make it better than it's ever been. And the future is wide open with possibilities with how much easier it's going to make life. But also there's a downside. Before the invention of the car, nobody died in a car accident or nobody was run over by a car. I think it's pretty obvious to say the benefit of the car far outweighs the negative. But based on your experience, you might feel differently. But overall, AI is likely going to be the same. There'll be scams and fraud used by AI, by bad actors, just as a hammer is either a tool or it's a weapon, depending on how it's wielded by the person holding it. I think moreover than not, people use hammers for their intended use case. But every once in a while, people think it's some kind of medieval weapon, and they'll come at you with it. That doesn't make the hammer bad or faulty. And right now, AI is similar, and it's likely going to remain that way, where there's going to be a lot of benefit to it, and there's going to be people who abuse it and use it for bad things. But the good should far outweigh the bad, and it's up to you to use it responsibly and to be aware, to know what to look for when things aren't quite right. And as that becomes more common, and as the fraud starts getting more popular, we'll be able to point out to you what to look for. But in general, when it comes to you creating doing a search or asking an AI chat for answers, that's all safe. The problem is when somebody sends you an email, or on a lot of web dating sites, a lot of the dating profiles aren't real people. They'll have conversations. They can even do live chat, and you're not talking to a real person. You would never know. And they can do that for a couple of months till you really feel like you get to know them, but you've never actually met them in person. And so when they suddenly, they've built all this trust and they built this emotional relationship with what you believe is a real person, that's when they need help from you for something. And it involves money, it involves opportunities to invest, and you look at it, you go, yeah, it's real obvious. But when you're wrapped up in what you believe is a real relationship with somebody that you've known for 2 months, and all of a sudden they need a little help and you want to help them, they'll clean your bank account out. So that's already happening. That's been going on for a little over a year. And you can Google or just go on YouTube and look for news stories on people that have had their accounts drained because they were convinced they were talking to somebody real for a few months before it happened. It's called a pig butchering scam. And it's probably one of the single most common scams online currently happening today. A lot of lonely people just looking for a connection, and they are getting bilked. So there's been a few suicides over it as well, where people have lost everything, and now they've got nothing, and they feel humiliated. And there's certain things you got to look out for. But if you're creating the chat, if you're asking tech questions and stuff, you still need to verify information. And if you're talking to somebody online, you need to verify they're real. And the only way to do that is to meet them in person. And they'll always promise to meet you in person. But for some reason, something comes up and they can't quite make it. Those are big red flags. So just be aware that's going to get worse before it gets better. Raymond says, I see Dom under detail. So I think, Raymond, if you follow the video that I specifically showed you, not for the AMD instructions, but for the Intel instructions, if you follow the steps as shown without injecting your own thoughts or opinions, just do exactly what is shown and just turn off your brain. Don't understand it. Just monkey see, monkey do. This person clicked there, you click there. This person clicked that, you click that. This person saved an exit, you save an exit. Once you successfully accomplish those set tasks, then you can put it together in your head so it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to you right now because you're not even following the directions and you're looking at things no one asked you about. So if you really are serious and sincere about wanting to get that running, you need to follow exactly what that video shows. Do not do anything it doesn't show. And if you can't find something it shows, stop until you figure out if you're looking in the right place. It is an education issue for you. Don't expect to learn it in 5 seconds. Be patient. Don't overthink it. In fact, don't think about it at all. Just follow exactly what is shown on the screen for the Intel version of that motherboard, click for click with no exceptions. If you don't have that click, find it. Figure out what you're misunderstanding. It's there and you're not seeing it. Beyond that, if you still run into issues, then let us know. But there's no thinking required on this. All you have to do is do exactly what the person on the video does, and you will have the exact same result they have. That's it. It's really simple. Once you have that experience, then you can kind of put it together in your head where it makes more sense to you. But right now, it's not supposed to make sense to you. You have to do it first. You can't really understand how to ride a bicycle until you get on it. You can't really understand how to swim until you get in the water first. So it's like you're trying to put things in the wrong order, in my opinion. And I would strongly advise you to just follow click by click, be successful, and now you'll have the light come on and you'll say, okay, now I have a better understanding because I had the experience. Trying to have the understanding without the experience is working the other way around. It's going to make life very difficult for you, just so you know. All right. And listen, thank you everybody for hanging out with us today. Thank you to all the members who make these videos possible. Thanks to our friends at Minisforum for sending us the M1 Plus so we could tear it apart and scrutinize it. I think with the amount of computer you're getting for the money, this is a good direction. I think Minisforum's leading the way for what I think other smart manufacturers are going to do to make their machines more affordable when RAM and storage is just continuing to go up and up and up and up. So right now, with this being 32 gigs and 1 terabyte, I suppose we're probably going to start seeing a lot of machines that are going to be 8 gigs with 512 storage, because it's going to cut the price of the machine in half in a few months. So be prepared for that. We'll also see older 12th gen, 13th gen chips more popularized because they'll be cheaper, especially if they use the DDR4 RAM. You're probably going to see a resurgence of DDR4 RAM usage on older chips, strictly for the financial reasons throughout the rest of 2026. And, you know, hopefully it'll be resolved in some time in 2027. It's a parts supply and demand issue. It's temporary. It's like trying to find toilet paper during the pandemic. It's not a problem today. But be aware, this is not forever. And there are other areas that you can be looking to enhance your system. Treat yourself to a new keyboard, a new mouse, a new desk, a new monitor, new speakers, new headphones, new chair. There's lots of ways that you can spend the money burning a hole in your pocket that will be much better return for the money than buying any RAM or storage will do for you today. If you're working and you need the RAM or the storage because it helps you generate an income, then the price doesn't matter to you. Right? There's no point in complaining about a tool. Like a surgeon saying, I can't afford to buy a scalpel. Give me a break. No one cares how much the scalpel costs. But if you just like playing with scalpels, you're like, oh, the scalpels are too much money. Well, it's a toy for you anyway. Don't worry about it. A box cutter is all you need. All right. With that, thank you to Mara, of course, our channel administrator who does our thumbnails and sets up all our video descriptions, including those links to VIP-URCD keys, our coupon code from Minisforum with the links to Minisforum's official website where you can buy it direct from them, or to Amazon if you prefer to buy it from Amazon. Thank you for the super chats and your memberships, and a special shout out for those Amazon gift cards that came in from Mark Gaines, Charlie Purdy, and our friend Buster. As always, thank you guys so much for your continued support. And I feel like I'm leaving somebody out here, and I don't mean to, but there's something I'm forgetting. We will be back live on Sunday. As I mentioned, we're going to finish the testing. Tonight, I'll go ahead and finish the updates. I'll run the Windows 11 optimizer. That is officially released, by the way. My Windows 11 optimizer is available for sale, and it's solid. We're still going to continue to add more features to it. Nick and I have been talking about a couple more things I want to do. So we're not done with it, but it's pretty well polished and shouldn't create any other issues for anybody. So if you were waiting, you know, until the product was a bit more solid, As I predicted, first of the year, it was pretty well good to go. Actually, pretty well good to go about first week of December. But the updates aren't rolling out as frequently because there's not as much to address. So if you've been holding off to buy it, we'll do a show specifically about it and all the enhancements we've made to it. All the updates are free for the life of the product. So essentially, we anticipate the life of the product to be the life of Windows 11. When Windows 11 support ends, then support for the Windows 11 updater will end. When Windows 10 support officially ends, any sort of support for the Windows 10 updater, or optimizer rather, will end when Windows support ends for that version of Win. So in other words, when Windows 10 support officially, Microsoft says we're done with this, that's when the Windows 10 optimizer, we won't even sell it anymore. It'll get up, it won't be sold. The Windows 11 optimizer, whenever Microsoft decides there'll be like a Windows 12 or something and whatever, and Windows 11 support ends, I want you to know what to expect. Between now and then, any updates we do, they're all free and included. There's no subscription, there's no additional charge, there's no product keys or activations. We're on an honor system, we're just hoping you won't copy it off for friends. We don't mind if you want to use it on your friend's computer, but don't leave it on your friend's computer. The changes it makes are permanent. You should only need to run it once. If it turns out we're losing money and, you know, we can't afford to continue it anymore, that would be why support would stop, is the business just wasn't sustainable. So it's really up to the hands of the users of our community if we're able to do what we want to do with it. So we appreciate everybody that supports us and the people that, you know, buy the tool and use the tool. If you have ideas for the tool that you'd like to see, let us know. If you have any issues with it, Nick over at D7X Tech, he has created it himself from the ground up and answers your support questions. So best to direct those type of questions to Nick, because he's the one that can actually fix it, not me. All right. That's going to wrap it up. Raymond said, thanks for helping. If you're still having problems, Raymond, if you have a friend, somebody who's a bit more technologically savvy that can assist you, it may require somebody there to kind of guide you through it. The issue you're having is not a computer issue. It's a human training issue. So there's nothing wrong with that computer. You're just not utilizing it correctly. If the instructions we've offered you today are not enough, you're certainly welcome to keep at it until you figure it out. But if you're looking for a faster solution, if there's anybody you know that's technically savvy that can come over and look at it for you, they can set that up for you as well. But either way, I want you to know there's nothing with the computer. This is an education issue, and whether or not you wish to pursue that to, you know, whether it means asking for help locally or just staying with it until you figure it out, that's your choice to make. But there's nothing wrong with that computer, and there's nothing you need to buy for it. You just need to configure it correctly. That's all. All right. So with that, you're always welcome to come back with further questions if you insist on wanting to figure this out yourself. But rest assured, I just want to direct you that this is an education issue from you. It is not an issue for you to fix on the computer. And that's, there's only one way you can learn it. And the best way is to do it yourself or to have somebody show you live and in person. If I had that motherboard here, I would show you. But unfortunately, that's an older board and I don't have something where I can fire it up and show it to you. If you lived close by, I'd grab it from you and we could put it on the desk and I could demonstrate it. It's just pushing the right buttons. That's all you have to do. All right. So however you want to pursue that, just it's up to you where you want to, continue to drive towards that resolution on your own, or you feel like this is impossible, then find somebody who can help you locally, who can look at it in person and show you. That would be the best advice I have for you. Okay. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you guys again for hanging out. Thank you to everybody for communicating and with each other and interacting with me during the live streams. I appreciate that and enjoy it very much so. We'll look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. We'll be back live. That's 1 p.m. Phoenix time, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. is the Eastern time zone. That's equal to 1 p.m. here in Phoenix. And we hope you'll join us then as a public video. And we'll continue on with our testing of the Minisforum M1 Plus on Sunday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a great Saturday. Big football game on tomorrow. Packers and the Bears. Big rivalry. Oh, Mara's rolling her eyes. Big sports fan. We'll see you all next time. Until then, bye for now.